Hi there everyone, welcome to the UkeStuff channel. Today I want to talk about the G chord. I mentioned this in a tutorial for one of the play along videos, but if you don't watch your tutorials for the play along videos, you wouldn't catch it. And in each one of those tutorials, I go over the chords that you need for that song and a strumming pattern that might work for that song, because there aren't really correct answers for strumming patterns. There are three rules for strumming patterns. I'll go over them real quick. Number one is that you're playing the right chord. Number two, that you're playing the right chord at the right time in time with the song, so you're at the right tempo. And third, that whatever you're strumming, it matches the style of the music. So that's all great. However, when it comes to the G chord, I often see discussion about the G chord. And my own students who are in fifth grade, when they start playing ukulele, the G chord is tough. It's tough. And in my sequence, I do offer a video ukulele method, which is based off of the play along videos. So the content is free out there on the web. You can create your own video ukulele method, but the organization of it is what I sell to make things easier for other users, right? It makes just other educators can just use it and run, decide which videos they want to use it, and just run with it. Now, in my own method, I teach the C chord first because it is the most frequently used chord on GCA ukulele. Then I teach the F chord, which is not the second most used chord, but if you figure that you're going from one finger to two fingers, you're good. I do not mess with the C7. I do not mess with the A minor because there are not enough songs to use those chords in the future for a while. So my entire method is based upon what are the most frequently used chords, and then you can find songs that use all of the chords as you add them as you go. When you're only doing F and C7, for example, your choice of songs is really limited. Now, your kids can play two chords, but then what do they do next? So with this method, you do C, then you do F, and then you do G. And it is a struggle. It is a struggle. So I wanted to talk to anybody that's dealing with the G chord and just give you some tips with it if you're struggling with it. And first and foremost, understand that it is a gateway chord. Not only is it the second most used chord on ukulele, not just by the study of the ukulele play-along videos, which are made for education, but also by the Ukulele Hunt website. He has taken a look at all of the songs that he has chorded out for people, and the G is the second most used chord on his songs too, and he's not specifically education based. So number one is C, number two is G. Number three, incidentally, is F chord. So those are flip-flop, but as you're learning, it makes sense to go from one finger to two fingers to three fingers. So some just general tips. First and foremost, obviously note the G chord is V-shaped. It's a V with two fingers, then one finger. That's the first thing. The second one is to notice that the first finger is closest to you when you're making that G chord. Down the road, yes, you might use fingers 2, 3, 4 as well. That's an option. But as always, there's a reason why these chords exist. The instrument has been around roughly since 1879, perhaps a couple of years later, but right around there. The fingering for rajao, which is one of the instruments that the ukulele comes from, had these as standard chord shapes as well. There's a reason why these were invented. Why would we think that we should recreate the wheel right from the beginning? There's got to be a reason that they're there. And like most things, learn the rules first and then break them when it makes sense to do so, right? Know the rules first and then break them. So use two fingers. Little Bunny Foo Foo is a song that we don't really teach in education anymore because they think of violence to animals, right? Little Bunny Foo Foo hopping through the forest, scooping up the field mice and bopping. We don't like people bopping field mice on the head anymore. But that said, the quotation mark, you want round shape, you want your knuckles bent and pointed out. A lot of my students end up playing in a way that actually causes these knuckles, these smaller knuckles, to bend inward when they're making chords. Being on your fingertip. Bernadette Teaches Music used to draw dots on her students' fingertips. I don't think I could get away with that today, but she actually would draw dots on the fingertips to make sure that students were playing on their fingertips. And so here's what I do. I say don't come across straight because your fingers aren't made to go in order 1, 2 with your fingers straight. You want to come in at an angle. So you don't come across straight, you come in at an angle. I see a lot of players, especially young players, trying to make chords with this shape with their left hand. They're actually making sort of like this resting part for the neck with their hand, and it ends up with this weird thing. So I work really hard at getting my students to get their arms not way off from their body, but out from their body and not supporting along the neck like this. They actually do. They play like this. It's very constricting and hard. So if you're coming at an angle, so your wrist is still straight, and again, it's your chording hand, not your strumming hand. If you're left-handed, this works too. You just got to flip the hands, right? So this hand comes in at that angle, and then I can lay down my first and second fingers on strings 3 and 1, which are red and blue on our school ukuleles, and then I can bring in my ring finger to the yellow string, second string, third fret at the same time, making that V shape. And that's the G chord in a way that isn't causing me to try to do this or do this in a weird way. It's allowing this arm to be straight, letting those fingers come down and just reach over naturally, and then the ring finger underneath. And it works with people of all hand sizes. I have men's size large hands. They're not huge hands. Yes, they're larger than some women's hands, but at the same time, they're not giant hands. And I've even had students with larger hands than I have that also that allows them to do so. So again, real key points: allow the wrist to rotate to make the chord that you want. Don't get so glued upon, no pun intended, where you put your thumb. There are some music educators that put like a felt piece of felt tape here so that their students leave their finger there all the time. But the thing is, with the thumb, it goes where it needs to go to make the chord. And in some cases, it might need to be further out. It might need to be further back depending on where you want to be. And you can play with that as you go, and especially as you watch your hand position and what happens. So if you put your thumb way out, look, your wrist ends up being along the back. If you move your thumb back, it gives you that open spot. Then the only other tip that I would give people is, again, other than making sure that your knuckles are bent, is Bernadette always talked about having enough room that a mouse could crawl. I always move it to hamster because some people are freaked out by mice but not by hamster. But I tell students, try to have it so that a hamster could walk between your fingers here and, crawl through your hand if it needed to while you're making that G chord. So yeah, just some thoughts on the G chord if it's hard for you, some ways to make that easier. And remember, someday this will become the second most used chord that you use in all of your playing, and it won't seem hard at all. You'll be like, oh yeah, G chord, boom, and you'll have it. And that isn't very long before that happens. But then someday you're going to end up facing a chord that's much harder. It could be, for example, a bar chord of some kind, or it could be something with 4 fingers, like that. Someday that's going to happen, and then you can go back and think back to the fact that the G chord at one point was hard too, but now it's not any longer, and yes, you can conquer that next thing as well. So just some quick thoughts about the G chord on this Enya Nova Soprano. I thank you for watching the video. I hope you're having a great day. I wish you the best with the G chord, and I'll be back soon with some more uke stuff for you.